What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Fight HQ preview for UFC Vegas 74. I almost said the wrong card there. If you would have seen what me and Pete were talking to about 30 seconds ago, you might have gotten some quality entertainment, Pete.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to start swearing on this channel because these cards and these just DraftKings slates we have to break down, it gives you quite the headache.
Look, it's it's kind of as Ben folks like to say, we're doing some fights here, and that's clearly what we're doing here. We're doing some fights in Apex here. Of course, this fight card's gone through a ton of changes, Pete. By the way, for our listeners out there, we will have a DraftKings contest. I'll get that locked and loaded up here this afternoon. I've been traveling the last 2 days, so kind of hadn't had a chance to get around to it. Got a lot of work to catch up on, but obviously, fight card gone through some changes. And Pete, I think before we get into the fight cards, I think we got to talk a little about game theory and being smart about the type of contest you're playing in, because we both know when we get to the first fight of the night and we look and see what ownership are, Jim Miller and Jay Mullarkey are going to be chalk, especially in cash. But I think when we're talking about big GPP fields, Pete, I think we got to be smart of how do we utilize that chalk.
Yeah, I think you have to have at least one of them, right? And the most chalky build is going to have both of them. I want to have both of them in a lot of my contests. The only issue is that build's going to lead you to holding hands with a ton of other people. You know what I mean? So, but the issue is that they are big favorites, or they're notable names that we know. Mullarkey, massive favorite, and I do think that it is a proper construction of getting to both of them, despite how chalky it can be. Like in a 20 max, I'm probably doing 50% with both of them, despite how much of the field is going to be doing the same. It's the broken price tags, right? So you have to get to at least one, but I would recommend dabbling on the other side because of the massive leverage that you will have on the field, right? Like 80-90% of the field has fighters under the 6,000 mark. Their opponents are going lost in the shuffle. It's anything can happen in MMA, the most volatile sport there is. So anything can happen. One shot, an injury, a DQ. We see a terrible decision from the judges. You need so many things to go right in an MMA fight. So I'm completely fine with getting to the other side in large field GPPs. No problem at all.
Yeah, large field GPPs, I'm going to kind of be a little, depending on how many entries you're putting in that large field GPP, it goes into that factor. But yeah, I mean, look, both those guys are going to be extremely owned. But, look, I think that as I looked up and down, there are some interesting underdogs that do stick out to me. Maybe I'll be on an island here. I like the upside of Daniel Pineda in the co-main event. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Johnny Munoz. So I talked to his cousin, Alan Munoz, that's Al Martinez, who's going to be on my podcast on Sunday. He predicted that his cousin's going to go out there and get a second-round TKO. So just throwing that out to the universe.
Interesting.
So him and Johnny have been training together for, he had a fight last weekend. He got a win. Alan's going to be in the UFC within next year. He, absolute rarity, Pete, on the regional scene. He actually wants to take his time getting to the UFC. I know we don't see that very often, but he predicted that one there. But also, do you trust an 8,600 Elise Reed? We'll talk about that.
Oh, that's a hell no. I can't wait to talk about that. That's a hell no. And I hope people do, because I do not trust that. I saw a favorite. I saw mid 8K priced. I said, I'm laughing to the bank over here because I'm just not doing it. Elise Reed is a favorite. Get the hell out of here.
Oh, yeah. 8,800 Maxine Grisham. I mean, I feel like if we put the do not trust list out this week, I think Elise Reed's definitely on that list. There's no doubt about it.
Oh,
Maxim Christian, long layoff. Oh, God. It's the first fight of the night. Know me in that first fight of the night. We're not exactly best friends.
No, not at all. And let me just tell you that, if it wasn't for our community, Fight HQ community, the Discord channel that we have, all you guys contacting us, there's no shot in hell that I'm doing this show. I'm just saying, I'm just not. I have a lot going on in my life. I know Jason's got a lot going on. I'm running on no sleep. The last thing I want to do is start talking about Elise Reed as a favorite and breaking down this entire card. But we're here to do it, and this is it might be the ugliest slate from a salary standpoint we've ever seen, because we got two fighters in the 6K range that, 7,100 Jim Miller, and it's just so weird, right? It's just so horrible.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weeks where salary is not going to be an issue if especially if you want a roster. Say you just go, hey, you know what? I'm starting with a combination of Jim Miller and Jamie Mullarkey. Then you're going to get to whoever you want to get to. So this week's a week about being smart here. But of course, we appreciate everyone tuning in here for Fight HQ. Of course, be sure to smash that thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We're here. I think we're here for the next 13 Fridays, Pete.
Nice.
no break in the UFC schedule anytime soon here. And we got a PFL show next week if everyone can stay clean and not fail a drug test. I think they're up to now 10 fighters who've been removed from the season for a failed drug test.
What the hell is going on? I feel like some days I wake up and the world is just like getting flipped on its axis. Like, I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, I know. But look,
PFL, like everything, like another major promotion in talks of possibly, you know what I mean? Like it's
that will
the
happen.
UFC
That will happen. It will happen. I don't see it. It's not going to be a merge with PFL. Based on information I've heard.
I wish it would.
I've heard some things. Mm-hmm. I don't think you're going to see Bellator get sold anytime soon. But at some point, someone's going to offer Viacom so much money that it's going to happen. Now, as a fight fan, would I love to see those two merge? But I'll tell you this: we did a draft on my podcast this week. It was a realization of how deeper the Bellator roster is than the PFL roster.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you really look at it, it's like, man, it's so much. But of course, we appreciate it, everyone here. We're going to get right into these fights. I'm going to tell you, folks, we're going to kind of go through these fights pretty quickly because some of these fights are not exactly very fun here. But we do got a key matchup in the main event, Pete, of Kai Kara-France and Amir Albazi. This is a straight-up pick-em fight on the betting lines, -110 on each side over on DraftKings. $8,200 for Kara-France, $8,000 for Albazi. FanDuel, $19 for Kara-France, $18 for Albazi. I think we kind of know what to expect out of Kara-France, but this is a big step up in competition for Amir Albazi, Pete.
Yeah, it's a big step up in competition. We have 5 rounds to work with in the flyweight division, so I really like this fight, obviously because of the salary at $8,200 and $8,000. Kai Kara-France looking to rebound off of the loss to Brandon Moreno. Was doing fine in that contest, but was ultimately TKO'd due to the body kick in the 3rd round. Now he's, facing off against an up-and-comer who's a very talented grappler, solid mixed martial artist everywhere in Amir Albazi. But this is a step up of competition. Kai Kara-France has fought more notable names, more dangerous fighters. Amir Albazi has all the talent in the world. He just hasn't been in there against the toughest competition. Alessandro Costa, Francisco Figueiredo, Zhalga Zhumagulov, and Malcolm Gordon. Solid wins, but nothing remarkable. So the lean is definitely to Kai Kara-France. I think he's built for beating this type of style of fighter, and he's had a ton of experience in doing so. If it's on the feet, I favor him in a striking match against almost the entire division. I just think that his striking skills, despite getting TKO'd to the body, I think that he's just very crisp. He has good volume. He has good speed, good power for the division, which isn't a division known for power. If he keeps the fight on the feet, I think it's his to lose. Amir Albazi represents some interesting grappling upside, and I do think that is clearly the Achilles heel of Kai Kara-France, but I don't think it's bad. It's just like, if he does get taken down, he's not nearly the fighter as he is when he's standing up. And if you can look to submit him and possibly, wrap up the neck, okay. I mean, that's anybody, but Amir Albazi is very, very talented on the mat. Before all this salary, chaos ensued, I was actually pretty interested in stacking the fight, to be honest, Jason. I'm not a big stacker, but $8,200, $8,000, high-paced fight, high-paced division, 5 rounds to work with. I'm leaning Kai Kara-France, but I can definitely see this touching the later rounds and being a competitive fight. With the proper game plan, Albazi can bank a couple rounds. With the proper game plan, Kai Kara-France can coast to a decision. So I was interested in stacking it, but I don't really know how I can do so now with 2 fighters two super underdogs on the slate that are now favorites.
Yeah, I will tell you this, looking over the prize picks angle, Albazi's takedown is at 2, and kind of just to circle on what you were just saying there, if he fights a smart game plan, I kind of like that over 2 takedowns if this thing goes, 25 minutes. I mean, the fight time on this fight is 20 minutes, so it kind of tells you there. And I'll just say this, I'll put my prize picks plays in our Discord channel tomorrow, our Discord channel, totally free to join. I will tell you, one of the things I've really kind of been going really big on is I've really gotten away from those 5 prop cards over on prize picks. I'm going to more the 2 and the 3 ones just because of, especially in MMA, hitting 5 of 5 is very difficult on these props. So, and I'm even really where I started this strategy was during the NBA playoffs. And I've had a ton of success on prize picks just doing 2 and 3 cards. Now, of course, you got to hit all sides of it. But I think if you are going to play on prize picks, like I'm in a state where I can't legally bet on a fight, prize picks is a way for me to go. So just kind of throwing it out there. I give for me the leanest card France in this one. It's just because of I know what to expect out of card France in these type of situations. I just don't know what to expect out of Albazi. But look, and you brought up the great point here before the salary chaos happened this week. This is a fight that you were looking at going, man, I probably want to get to both sides of the equation. But a slight lean for me for card France. Now the co-main event is a matchup between Alex Caceres and Daniel Pineda. This is probably the fight that I'm most excited for, just because I think this has a chance to be a fight of the night type of action. Caceres 8,900 on DK, 7,300 for Pineda. Alex is $18 on FanDuel, $12 Pineda on FanDuel for him. Caceres is a minus 180 betting favorite, plus 155 for Daniel Pineda. Pete, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I really like Alex Caceres here. I really do. I think that in wins, Daniel Pineda scores well because he's a prolific finisher. So when he is able to win, he scores really well, where a lot of times some people just squeak out decisions. He's not that guy. He finds finishes. Alex Caceres has been a very, very hot fighter of late. If you date back to 2019, picked up decision wins over Steven Peterson and Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper looked really good last weekend, 2 weekends ago, whatever it was. A submission win over Austin Springer. Decision over Kevin Kroom, submission over Sungwoo Choi, decision loss to Sadiq Youssef, and the most recent head kick knockout against Julian Erosa. So, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 1 in this past 7. He's been on such a heater, and this is a guy who's kind of grown up in the UFC. And I do think that for the most part, he was a slick jiu-jitsu guy who had good karate style, great distance management, will point fight you from the outside. I actually think that there's some high finish upside here for Alex Caceres. He can go to the body really well, and I feel like Daniel Pineda is pretty susceptible to the body. I'm seeing a body kick, a body knee. If this does end up on the mat, I don't think that Caceres is going to be a fish out of water at all. He's a very, very good submission grappler. Was only submitted against Kron Gracie, and then was also submitted against Jason Knight, who actually has a really good ground game. But I just feel like Caceres makes less mistakes. Pineda makes a ton of mistakes, but he's aggressive. And sometimes aggressiveness wins out. I can understand why people want to get to a 7,300 fighter who's going to try to go out there and have a high round 1 upside, or even just be a dog to the final minute. But for me, it's Alex Caceres, and I actually think Alex Caceres is going to finish Daniel Pineda inside the distance.
So after Pineda won his last fight, I had a chance to talk to him, and one of the things that he mentioned to me was that if he lost that fight, he was likely going to hang his gloves up. That was going to be in, got a new UFC contract out of it. To me, where, obviously in the chaos of the salary this week before all that happened, Pineda was a guy I looked at and says, like, man, you know what? He's going to fight for your dollar. And, and I do think there is a sneaky takedown upside here with him. The takedown prop on Caceres on Prize Picks is a half. I hate those lines because he could just sneak his way into one takedown. The one I will say that kind of does stick out to me a little bit is because of the toughness of Daniel Pineda. I think the over 40.5 significant strikes on Alex Caceres is kind of is probably the prop on Caceres on Prize Picks that I like the most. I'm saying it's one of my favorite props of the week, but in terms of they're on Caceres, but to me, it's more of that looking at that upside, and in these big GPPs where I want to get different, maybe instead of taking a Jim Miller, I'm going to take a Daniel Pineda just to get different from the field, but I do want to see what the salary is going to play out. Speaking of Jim Miller, of course, he is now on opponent number 3, as he is now taking on Jesse Butler, supposed to take on Ludwig Klein initially. Then it was Jared Gordon, which I didn't understand, Pete. It was like a month ago he got knocked out.
I know.
Which I'm like, UFC A, what are we doing here? B, commission, what are you doing? We saw the guy essentially get knocked out twice in a fight. Let's call it what it is. Bobby Green knocked him out twice, one from a headbutt and one from a follow-up shot. So now you got Jesse Butler sitting up here. He's 6,600 on DK. He's a plus 210 betting underdog, $9 on FanDuel. Jim Miller, 7,100 on DK, 21 on FanDuel. He's a minus 275 betting favorite. Got to imagine that ownership is probably going to be north of 40% in terms of this one for Jim Miller. Kudos to Jim Miller, because Jim Miller has everything to lose in this fight, Pete, and nothing to gain.
100%. I mean, the issue is that we're always needing to get paid. You know what I mean? You don't want half your paycheck. That's the problem. You think Jim Miller wants to be a hero and go in the – no, man, he wants the other half of his money. So, like – and also you don't want your fight camp to go to waste, and there's a lot on the line, man, and a lot of times you're in a financial hole. So when you can, on a short notice, everything sounds like it's going to be Jim Miller. I think I got more interest in Jesse Butler than I do Jamie Mullarkey's opponent, to be honest. And I know that Jesse Butler's stepping up on absolute short notice, 12-4. Don't really know much about the guy, I have to be honest, other than he's out of Fury FC. Fury FC is not a bad promotion at all. He actually did just beat a friend of mine in Luis Luna, who is one of my roommates out in New Mexico. I helped Luis train for multiple fights. Luis Luna is a banger, so he throws heat, and he's kind of like a John Lineker. So for him to pick up a decision over Luis Luna, who is very dangerous, it goes to show me that Jesse Butler's okay with being in a firefight or avoiding a firefight by implementing some smart strategies. He is 12-4. He is 5'10", 72-inch reach, pretty big for the division. 5'10's nothing crazy, but he's going to be a little bit longer than Jim Miller, who's 5'8" with a 71-inch reach. So I have more interest in Jesse Butler than I do Jamie Mullarkey's short notice replacement and Muhammadjan and Naimov. I just think, like we've seen, yes, Jim Miller's got the most wins in the UFC history or something like that. I feel like he does have 17 losses. That chin, that he is susceptible. He's always been susceptible to the body. His cardio due to Lyme disease, like there is a path for Jesse Butler to actually go out there and perform well. With all that being said, on paper, Jim Miller should win this fight all day long. You're the UFC vet, guy stepping up on short notice. I have picked against Jim Miller a ton of times. That's all I'm going to say. And then it was just like he kind of like hit a new stride in his career. I mean, Eric Gonzalez, that overhand left. Nicholas Mota, dangerous up-and-comer. You thought that everybody did, thought that Mota would go out there and just be a little bit too dangerous. All I'm saying is that from a build standpoint, I'm going to get the Butler a lot more than Naimov. And I actually might make a stand because this is going to be a chaotic, crappy slate to begin with. Mm-hmm. Maybe I just try to get different and go with Jesse Butler as a complete flyer. Shouldn't happen, but I just got a gut feeling that it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things, if you're using something like a fantasy cruncher, you're going to have to be very particular about your exposures. You know, whether we're talking about you're putting in a 20 max lineup or a 150 max lineup, or, you know, say you're just doing a crunch, you want to see what it spits out. You're going to have to choose your exposures, because if not, cruncher's going to give you just a ton of Jim Miller and a ton of Jamie Mullarkey, something to kind of think about here. Next up, we got another matchup that's also a replacement fight. Victor Altamirano stepping up here to take on Tim Elliott. Tim Elliott, a minus 170 betting favorite, plus 145 for Altamirano. Elliott, $9,000 on DK, $19 on FanDuel. Altamirano is $7,200 on DK, $12 on FanDuel. Of course, we all know what the narrative has been this week or the last 2 weeks with Tim Elliott, because, you know, the MMA media loves a low-hanging fruit. God forbid we don't, talk about the fact of, hey, how about your longtime coach in your corner? Oh, you got a new training gym as well? How about, Pete, can we talk about that as opposed to, hey, Tim, can we talk about, what's going on in your personal life?
Yeah. Where's he out of now? Because I know I missed that.
It's out of a gym in Texas.
Small gym in Texas?
Yeah, small gym.
Yikes. So you hate to see it, right? Drama, personal life intertwined with, a lead up to an MMA fight typically doesn't work well. It typically doesn't work well. You can use it as absolute motivation. I was siding with Mackenzie Dern because I had a gut feeling with it, and it actually looked like she was career best. Did her personal life lead to any of those improvements, or that, she just completely outperformed her norm? Was it because of all the motivations outside of fighting? It could have been. But I will tell you that there is a level of motivation and distraction. And I do think that as much as we feel for a guy in Tim Elliott, we don't know the story, like all the story. And we don't know, there's 3 sides to a story. We're hearing his. But I will tell you that it seems like a painful story. And the painful story sometimes leads fighters to be emotional. He could literally get 50 points in round 1 because Victor Altamirano can get taken down. And when I saw him on the Contender Series, and he's going in there and he's getting taken down, and he's getting back to his feet and he's scrappy and everything, I'm saying to myself, all right, well, he's fighting, he's getting put in bad positions, but he's always, biting down on a mouthpiece, humming shots, getting takedowns himself, pushing a pace. He can break you if you just want him to go away. He's like a mosquito, and he just won't leave you alone. I will say that I have significant interest in Victor Altamirano as an underdog due to the volatility of Tim Elliott to begin with. There is tremendous ceiling and upside within Tim Elliott. I mean, he scored 150, 153, 132 throughout his career. He did just pick up a very nice victory over Tagir Ulanbekov, scoring 3 of 9 takedowns, defending 8, having 50 seconds of control time. But I will tell you that a guy in Victor Altamirano can actually make things super, super scrappy and is a solid submission threat. And that's the problem with Tim Elliott, is he exhausts himself, especially if you're emotional, and then you put yourself in bad positions. I just don't trust the fight IQ of Tim Elliott. I have to be honest. So despite the volatility, man, I will pick Victor Altamirano at 7,200, I think. But I'm going to get to both sides of this fight. I can literally see a world where Tim Elliott scores 10-plus takedowns en route to a decision victory, and he looks better than ever. But, I'll let him prove me wrong.
Mention a couple of comments we got here on this fight. First up from Sam, he says, with Elliott, I think it's recently biased because of Dern. He hasn't finished anyone really. He's a big decision fighter. Andrew saying, Elliott better on the ground. That those guys, though, I think he controls Altamirano here. I mean, look, the one thing is, if you listen to what Tim Elliott has said in terms of this fight, it is very evident this guy, he's flat out said he wants to go out there and win knockout. The smart game plan is to take Altamirano down. We've seen Altamirano get taken down throughout his MMA career. So, if he's fighting a smart game plan, that is. But it also feels like he's trying to get mic time, and that he's going to be hunting for that highlight reel knockout. And that, to me, is a little concerning, because we have, if Altamirano survives a huge first-round flurry,
that's what I'm saying.
is that gas tank going to be there? So that to me is a little bit of concern there. There's obviously huge, if Tim Elliott fights the proper game plan, huge takedown upside in terms of this one. But like, it's just like, I'll give our listener a little insight. So probably about at least a month ago, maybe a little more than that. So I was supposed to have an interview with Gina Mazzani. And then the PR rep goes, "Hey man, don't mention anything about Tim." I was like, okay. Now you know why.
Yeah.
I'm saying this right now. If Tim Elliott doesn't get a win and gets cut here by the UFC, BKFC, you know what to do. You know what to do.
I know. That's true. Oh my God. Jesus. You just matchmaker from heaven over here. I could definitely see. I mean, UFC signed Kroom to a 1-fight deal after this. Let's just see.
BKFC has Kroom under contract. He's been fighting BKFC.
Oh, see, I didn't even know. I don't pay attention to Kevin Kroom, but yeah, that definitely seems like a likely scenario. Oh my God!
You don't have to be a smart promoter to realize. You might and just make that the main event. Put that fight in Kansas City, where they both are from.
Oh my God! Jeez, yeah. I mean, I will tell you, Victor Altamirano got taken down 5 times against Carlos Candelario. Carlos is up here in New England. Mm-hmm. He's got really good hands. He has some solid jiu-jitsu, but I don't view him as a takedown artist. You know what I mean? Like, he can get a takedown, but I don't view him as a 5 takedown per fight type of guy. When I see that against Victor Altamirano, I'm like, Tim Elliott will thrive in the wrestling department. It's just he'll leave his neck out there. The Brandon Royval fight kind of gives me nightmares, where he was, just doing just fine, and then next thing you know, he gets submitted. You know what I mean? So it's like, you can't trust Tim Elliott. I wouldn't say that you can trust Victor Altamirano, but I think that you're going to need this fight. So I'm going to prioritize this fight. It's a high-paced fight.
Sam goes, where the BKFC fight gets the girl.
Oh, damn. That does sound like a typical. Yeah. Hey, we got a decent amount of people checking us out, man, for this horrible card.
Hey, look.
We appreciate it.
As Gus Johnson says, these things happen in MMA. And for people who've not been in the MMA business, these type of situations happen a lot in MMA.
Oh yeah,
people like myself and Pete. Yeah, we know these. We hear the stuff that I hear.
Oh
like,
man.
There's times that, good Lord, there's just sometimes I hear things I go, that can't be true. No, that did not happen. And then you get told like by 4 other people, like, yeah, that happened.
It's a common occurrence in MMA. It really is.
We got another 9,000 option come up here. We got Karine Silva, 9,300. She's a minus 225 betting favorite, $22 on FanDuel. She's taking on Caitlin Souza, who's a plus 185 betting underdog, 6,900 on DK, $10 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I mean, pretty self-explanatory. I like Karine Silva a lot. It's women's MMA, so you have to be careful with getting a little too bullish. Do I like the salary? No, not necessarily. 9,300. I think that she's pretty powerful for the division. She's big, but she's got some good submission upside in a lot of her fights. And it's always tough when you have a UFC debutante coming in women's MMA. You know what I mean? But I will say that out of the fight film that I've seen, I think that Karine Silva checks a little bit more boxes than Ketlen Souza for me. Ketlen Souza is not a bad fighter at all. She's 13-3, and she's been doing fine in Invicta. Back-to-back victories over Maiju Sutama and Christina Williams. Both of those have mediocre records, and she picked up 2 decisions, whereas Karine Silva has been finding finishes. Poliana Botelho, Darce choke round 1, Ki Hu Yan, 22-3, guillotine choke in round 2 on the Contender Series, and then back-to-back submissions in round 1 against CD Rocha and Simone de Silva. So for me, it's significant finish upside for Karine Silva. Ketlen Souza, could she win a decision? Sure. That seems to be her only path to victory here, is just staying alive throughout each round, trying to do a little bit more than Karine Silva. Perhaps Karine is a little labored in some of those, but I just think that when Karine pushes the pedal to the metal, she's very, very difficult to stop for this division. She is 5'5", 67-inch reach, but she looks to just have a leg up on a physicality standpoint from most of the division. So yeah, give me Karine Silva here. Do I love the price tag? No. Do I understand it? Yes. But I'm going to be favoring the Karine Silva side significantly as far as exposure goes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, I expect Silva will be highly owned here. Then we got another matchup that kind of came together here shortly. We got Zaleski dos Santos take on Nurmagomedov. Dos Santos a -105, -115 for Nurmagomedov. They're both $15 on FanDuel, and then over on DK, Dos Santos 8,300, Nurmagomedov 7,900. The one concern that I think I do see the knockout upside of Dos Santos here in this one, but this is his first fight since coming off USADA suspension of 19 months.
It's a great point. It is a great point. And Abubakar Nurmagomedov is a guy that really hasn't, impressed me throughout his career. And I think that's largely due to a PFL loss to Pavel Kush. But more importantly, it's a triangle choke defeat to David Zavada in round 1. So, sometimes when you're in the UFC and you're debuting in the UFC, there's a lot of pressure. And that's kind of what I saw in the debut for Abubakar Nurmagomedov was he's put in a bad spot. He's in a triangle choke and panic set in. You know what I mean? So you see the nerves get to people a lot. You see the pressure become a little too much at times. So granted, ever since that performance, I'm like, man, this guy just doesn't seem to be in it mentally. So I've been low on him. He's picked up back-to-back decision wins over Jared Gooden and impressively over Magadzhiev. So he's doing something right. And you know that Khabib Nurmagomedov's team, they have really developed into – they've always been a solid team, but I feel like mentally they've gotten better. And Khabib has spent a ton of time just, making everybody better mentally in the fight, where their fight IQ has increased, in my opinion. So he's got good takedown upside against Zaleski dos Santos, but like Zaleski hits really damn hard. He's a good striker. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I like him here. It's just, do I trust his takedown defense? It's kind of hard, and the odds are close. I really want to pick Zaleski dos Santos, but the time away from the cage is kind of pointing me into the other direction. So I'm going to be going to Abubakar Nurmagomedov to pick up a decision here. I think that there is solid takedown upside, but a low floor as far as like score wise. So he just doesn't do, after takedowns, he doesn't do anything. So I can see like a 70, 80 point performance. But like, not a lot of ground and pound. He could be losing most of the exchanges on the feet, and it just comes down to damage versus control. So I'm going to be getting to both sides, but I guess I'll take a shot on Abubakar Nurmagomedov as an underdog.
Yeah, I mean, I like the potential knockout upside here, but I think you bring up a lot of great points about Nurmagomedov and great points about the IQ of that fight team. Next up, we got Daniel Santos taking on Johnny Munoz. Santos is a -220 betting favorite. Johnny Munoz +180 on DK, 9,200 for Santos, 7,000 for Munoz, 20 and 11 over there on FanDuel. One of the questions Sam's had was, he says, DK question, what are the odds people will have Mullarkey with Silva and Santos in GPP. So, Sam, I think that's probably a high probability. But I did mention I talked to Johnny Munoz's cousin, Al Martinez, an upcoming flyweight prospect, and he told me he's in Vegas with Johnny, and he believes a second-round TKO victory is coming for Johnny Munoz here.
I don't see a TKO coming for him. I can see his path to getting takedowns. He's pretty physical. He's good as a grappler. We've seen him knock down against Tony Gravely in a stand-up affair. Tony Gravely, more of a wrestler with heavy hands. Willie Cat Santos, I actually think he's very good. And this is a guy who can actually come back from being down, can overcome adversity. You saw that in the John Castaneda. I view Castaneda as a damn good fighter for the division. I really do. I think that he's talented in all areas. He's good in jiu-jitsu. He's a good wrestler. He's got good hands. He's just he's the epitome of what that division is. It's just a tough division. And Willie Cat Santos has shown development in his career. Debuting against Julio Arce, you're going to lose a decision. That's very, very difficult to overcome. But rebounding in round 2 to pick up a TKO over John Castaneda, scoring 119 points, priced at 9,200. He's got to defend some takedowns. And he has defended 3 against Castaneda and 1 against Julio Arce. I think he's just dangerous though, from everywhere, from submission grappling to TKOs. I think that he can hurt. I think that he can hurt Johnny Munoz. I understand the high takedown upside, but I also don't trust the chin. I mean, that Johnny Munoz landed only 2 of 16 takedowns in his debut against Nate Maness. You already know my feelings on Nate Maness. That was in a loss, but God damn. I wish I was still 145 pounds or 35. I always thought he was a 45er, but I just don't like that dude. I'm going to go with Daniel Santos here at 9,200. I think that he knocks out Johnny Munoz, but I think it's a really good fight to target, to be honest.
Yeah, we all know your opinions of Nate Maness. Anytime I see Nate Maness news, I just fucking got to text Pete just because. Just to get your reaction.
Dude, that's just like, God.
All right, next up we got a heavyweight matchup, Dontel Mays versus Andrei Arlovski. Arlovski, a plus 115 betting underdog, minus 135 for Dontel Mays. Mays, 8,500 on DK, 16 on FanDuel. Arlovski, 7,700 on DK, $15 on FanDuel. And, I mean, look, if you're on the betting side of this, Pete, like, you just got to play. Arlovski wins via split decision, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go super specific and go split decision. I get it, but I'm just going to go decision because I don't understand this line. Arlovski, Dontel Mays, they used to train together, and I know that's probably some time ago, but still, like, they've had rounds at Jackson's. Like, that's been some time, but still, Arlovski is the same guy. He's going to outpoint you from the feet. There was a time where Augusta Win could drop him and knock him out, but he's been able to roll with shots, and just have better volume than this entire division. Leg kick you, counter you, defend some takedowns, but as long as you're not like crazy takedown artist, he's gonna be just fine. So I'm gonna go with Andrei Arlovski here. Dontel Mays, I got no love for you this week, buddy. I just don't. Even in he scored well one time, and that was against Josh Parisian. That's it. Outside of that,
6 takedowns.
Say again.
I think he got 6 takedowns in that matchup.
So he got 6 takedowns. I just don't he's not a takedown guy. I know he landed 6 takedowns, but I don't know. I just don't. Some people can just clinch and people fall down. I don't see Arlovski being that type of fish where he just flops to his back. You know what I mean? It's just, I think Arlovski's just going to be too good everywhere and going to pick up a decision win.
I mean, look, I just, in GPPs, I never like taking Andrei Arlovski just because you just kind of know, because Pete, the last time Andrei Arlovski won a fight via stoppage, you got to go back to, 2015 versus Travis Brown. Think about that.
I remember that fight.
8 years ago. It just passed the 8-year anniversary of that fight card.
It's kind of crazy.
We were me and Dane were talking about my podcast this week. We started going down to that fight card. Arlovski's one of the few from that fight card that's still active in MMA.
That's crazy.
Think about this. He made his debut in 1997. It's 2023. We wrote this guy off, 15 years ago?
That's what I'm saying. That's why it's if it was somebody else besides Dontel Mays, it's fine taking a shot on him. But, I mean, what does Arlovski have to do to be a favorite? You know what I mean? Against Dontel Mays? I don't know. I'm going to go Arlovski all day long.
I just think the problem with Arlovski is he's always going to find himself in these close fights that could go his way in decision, could not go his way. I mean, I think if Dontel Mays could utilize wrestling, I think that is his clear path to getting a victory here. But in terms of GPPs, this is just not a fight that I really want to get to. If I was going to get to one side, I'd probably more like to get to Dontel Mays' side, just because it's been 8 years since we've seen Arlovski get a finish there. You mentioned about John Castaneda. He's also a Sky fight card. Another guy who's gone through a fight change here. He's a minus 135 Betting favorite, 8,400 on DK, 16 on FanDuel. Take on Gafurov, who's 7,800 on DK, $14 on FanDuel, and a plus 115 betting underdog.
Yeah, so tricky fight, right? Like Castaneda is a guy I really believe in as far as like skills are considered. I also really like his opponent. I think that Gafurov's really good. I think that I've watched, some of his training. I watched some of his fights. Like get he really helped get Marab prepared for some of his most recent fights, cross training at Syndicate. The guy's got skills in the wrestling and grappling department. His wrestling and grappling is just really, really high level. And that's why whenever I see an underdog with significant skills in one grappling or wrestling department, I'm going to get to him. And I know that Castaneda is a guy I really believe in. He has good submission skills. He has good striking skills. I just feel like he could be defending a little too much in this matchup. And sometimes when you're on the back foot defending a lot, you put yourself in a hole. You're unable to really dig yourself out of that hole. And I'm actually going to go with Gafurov here. I don't like the short notice nature, but I have been paying attention to his social media, and it seems like for months now he's been waiting to get a short notice call up. The issue with that is peaking. He could have peaked weeks ago, and he could just, mismanage his weight cut or anything, right? And he just goes in there and he's not 100%. This is an opportunity to get into the UFC. It is what it is, right? You're going to go out there, you're going to give it your best effort. His next fight, he's probably going to look like an absolute stud. He kind of reminds me of Sayed Yokob Kakramanov from the takedown upside standpoint. It's just a short notice nature, right? Like I can't tell you. I don't know how he's really going to go out there. From a betting angle, I probably would just get away from the fight. But for DFS, I am 100% interested from a guy who has so much upside in the takedown department that he could win 2 rounds and do enough at 7,800.
Hold on. Did I just hear something there? Did
What?
I just hear Pete Rogers Jr. is backing someone who's trained at Syndicate?
Nah, I know. That's a good point. No, I know. I trust me. I've seen him dabble there. So, you know what I mean? Like, I don't consider him the Syndicate guy. But like, when you walk in the door and you train a couple times there, like, I mean, what's the guy, the Monkey King guy, the Jordan something?
Jordan Levitt.
Levitt. Yeah. I mean, I backed him before, and he actually made me look good. It takes a lot for me to say, all right, you're at Syndicate. I'll let it slide.
This is the thing. When you're in Vegas, it's
Correct.
For the most part, and if your mindset is as a UFC fighter that, hey, I'm doing a majority of my training in Vegas because of the UFC PI, which is a great reason to do it. You essentially have 1 or 2 gyms. There's some other smaller gyms, but it's either you go to Extreme Couture or you go to Syndicate.
You go to Extreme Couture. You go to the PI, and then you talk to Eric Nixick at Extreme Couture, and you become friendly with him because he seems like a great guy, and he's a fantastic coach, and that's where you train.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying, for UFC fighters who are in Vegas, for the most part, it's one or the other, unless you go to some of these smaller gyms at, there's some good jiu-jitsu gyms out there, whatnot, but to get the kind of training partners you need, you have to either go to Extreme Couture or you have to go to Syndicate. Next up, of course, we got the other chalk fight of the fight card, Jinh Mullarkey now taking on Muhammad Naimov. Naimov is a plus 360 betting underdog, minus 480 for Mullarkey. Mullarkey is $23 on FanDuel, $8 for Naimov's opponent. Then it's 6,700 and 6,500. Pete, it's going to be hard for one of these guys not to be in the optimal lineup.
Yeah, it's damn near impossible. And, I really like Jamie Mullarkey to be honest, just in general. I didn't like him against Gurun Kutataladze, but he's just a gamer, right? Like he possesses so much skill in every department. Very good striker. His hands look so great. He digs to the body. He throws vicious combinations. He gets hit a little too much for my liking, but his wrestling is good. Like he'll go out there and chain wrestle, pick up pick up very, very, solid takedown numbers, good control time. I think he has nice finish upside as well. And this is a guy who is clearly going to break the slate. If he wins 6,700, he doesn't have to do a lot. The way that he fights a fight, he goes out there, he wins, he breaks the slate. His opponent, Naimov, stepping up on short notice. What I could tell you about Naimov, previously training at Team Elevation. Strength of schedule, Jason, not good, in my opinion. Not good. Past 3 fights. Dylan Schultz TKO'd him in round 1, 34 seconds. He's a 4-3 opponent out of Tough Enough. A split decision on Tough Enough against a 10-3 fighter of Satik Mudayev, and then a arm triangle victory over a 5-6 opponent in Andres Ponce at Titan FC. Before that, he's lost decisions to Olivier Murad and Colin Anglin. We know who Colin Anglin is, and he was on the Contender Series. They both fought on the Contender Series. So, he's clearly good enough to get here. You know what I mean? From his skills and everything got him to a Contender Series fight. I just don't think that he's at Jamie Mullarkey's level. You know what I mean? Like, he could maybe squeak out some victories over some super low-level competition, but I feel like most Contender Series fighters are going to beat this guy. So I'm clearly going to side with Jamie Mullarkey to pick up a victory over Muhammadjan Naimov.
By the way, speaking of Titan FC, they actually got a card going on right now over on UFC Fight Pass. Cowboy Oliveira's in the co-main event. Also,
right now?
Well, yeah, right now. It's over, I want to say, in Bolivia. And then Will Brooks, the former Bellator and UFC fighter, is in the main event. Will Brooks has been campaigning a ton to get back to the UFC.
You know what's crazy is when I was down in American Top Team for 2 weeks, about 2.5 weeks, I was living at my uncle's house. Will Brooks was my main training partner, and that's back when I had no wrestling skills, no nothing. And him and I had absolute wars in the gym. And I remember my first day at American Top Team, and like I'm just lacing up all that stuff. We get out there, we're sparring. He's in championship fight camp. So I'm the new kid with the Team USA kickboxing t-shirt out there. So they just threw me with him. Mm-hmm. And I literally I wasn't on the match 5 minutes. Next thing I know, I'm in a fight for my life. And we ended up becoming cool after it. I had, my nose was busted. My eyes were black. And I was like a 22-year-old kid. And then I showed up for the practice later in the day and the next day and, for the next 2.5 weeks. And he was my main training partner every day after that. So it was pretty cool. We hit it off. So I'm always rooting for Will Brooks. He's a cool person. And, we had some really good rounds and a lot better ones after that.
Me and Will Brooks have a hit or miss relationship.
Oh yeah. I could see it though. I mean, he does it to himself too. You know what I mean? He does it to himself. So,
but yeah, he let's just say he didn't like a line of questioning during a press conference. And that he took it as a personal shot towards him, which it had nothing to do with him. But yeah. I want to believe the term was Jason's a hater was a term that was thrown out.
Yeah. Well,
all good, bro. All good. Dude,
fighters are sensitive sometimes.
Look, in this business, if you don't got thick skin, you cannot last.
Yeah, no. Yeah, you have to develop it, and if you don't, man. Yeah, it's going to be a really, really tough career.
You won't last in this industry.
No, not at all.
Next up, we got a female matchup. Elise Reed, a -135 betting favorite. She's A600 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. Taking on Jinh Frey. She's +115, $7,600 on DK, $14 on FanDuel. Should we just use the term here, Pete? Friends don't let friends put a $8,600 Elise Reed in their lineup.
Yo, you guys got to be careful right now. You're about to make me swear. What the hell is going on with this? And I'll tell you what, like, no shot. If I lose my money, I lose my money. But I don't care because I'm just not betting Elise Reed as a favorite. I'm just not. I don't think she's good. I think she'll hit you with the right hand and she'll throw some aggressive combinations. That is it. She is not meant for mixed martial arts. And this is a guy. I own my own gym, okay? I have a lot of high-level training partners that come through and all this and that. If you're in the UFC, you better be cross-training with some high-level training partners or at least traveling to go. I feel like she's like training herself. I don't think she's got any quality like notable names or high level training partners, she's got a karate base. She throws a good right hand down the middle. Could that knock out Jinh Frey, who's just coming off a knockout loss? Absolutely. You know what Jinh Frey does? She's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt, and she trains out of Fortis MMA. That's all I got to say. That's literally all I have to say. Saif Saud is going to come up with a game plan. And when you just got knocked out, right? What's the number one thing that you're going to want to do as a coach? You're going to want them to get to their grappling roots, or not even grappling roots, showcase their grappling in a safe win. And a safe win is going up there and attempting takedowns against Elise Reed, who is terrible on the mat and cannot defend takedowns. So, I mean, I understand the volatility of Jinh Frey. We haven't even seen her in a good score in any wins. I think she finishes Elise Reed. I think Elise Reed's ground game is trash. And you guys know I speak with respect out of everybody. But I'm just calling it what it is. I think Elise Reed's ground game is horrible. And I know she picked up a victory of Corey McKenna. I just think that Corey McKenna's okay with getting into a back and forth boxing striking matchup, whereas Jinh Frey, desperate for a win here, Saif Saud's going to be screaming at her. I think she's going to pick up a submission victory. She is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. That's what I'm saying. 7,600. Jinh Frey is going to come through. If Elise Reed wins, so be it. Burn my money. I don't care. I'm not betting on Elise Reed at 8,600 as a favorite.
Yeah, and Frey win by submission anywhere from 8-1 to 10-1. And here's what tells you what the books think here. Over 1.5, minus 560. Over 2.5, minus 315. Fight goes decision, minus 250. So that tells you what the books think of this fight. That's how they see this one going. Next up, we got Lacersa taking on Blackshear. Lacersa is a minus 150 betting favorite. Blackshear plus 125. Lacersa, 8,700 DK, $17 on FanDuel. Blackshear, 7,500 on DK, $13 on FanDuel. Luan Lacersa, to me, is one of the more interesting fighters on this card from a GPP aspect.
100%. I'm glad that you said that. I don't get the Damon Blackshear love. I think that he'll attempt takedowns. He'll get reversed. He does seem like he hits a cardio wall at times. He's an okay striker, but his best ways of winning fights is by just suffocating his opponents and just putting a pace on them, getting takedowns, taking their back. What are you going to out-grapple Lacersa? I don't think so. Like, that's not a game plan, and that's not a way to beat Luan Lacersa, in my opinion. Lacersa went the distance against Cody Stamann, scored 40 fantasy points in a loss, got a takedown, had a little bit of control time. And I thought he looked fine on the feet. I thought he looked good. For being a jiu-jitsu guy, I thought that he looked really good on the feet, super aggressive, walked Cody Stamann down at multiple points. I think that I'm with you, Jason. Like, my knee-jerk reaction, gut feeling, I feel like he finishes Damon Blackshear here. Like, I just have that little feeling. And, it could be due to exhaustion and Blackshear putting himself in a bad position. I know that he's coming off a loss to Farid Basharat, where he scored 42 in a loss, got a takedown, some control time. He picks up reversals in a lot of his fights. 2 in his debut against Yusuf Zalal, 1 against Farid Basharat. I just think Lacersa, if this hits the mat, he's just going to be a little too wise, a step ahead everywhere. And on the feet, I could just see him dig into the body. I don't know why. So 8,700, I'm with you, man. I really like him from like a contrarian. Doesn't really jump off the page, but for me, I just have some gut feeling about Lacersa.
Like, to me, like, I'd rather spend the 8,700 for him as opposed to going to a 9,000 Tim Elliott, where Tim Elliott could smash this slate. He very well could. I'm concerned that Tim Elliott's going to be hunting for a knockout, and maybe we don't get that fantasy score upside with the takedowns that we potentially seen.
Well, see, for me, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I see what you're saying. From a volatility standpoint, you want to avoid the volatility. I would probably say, like, okay, this is probably easier than because you can't eliminate exposure to Tim Elliott due to the ceiling. But, like, 8,500 Dontel Mays or 8,700 Luan Lacersa. It's no question Lacersa for me. You know what I mean?
10 out of 10 lineups.
Or 8,600 Elise Reed. Like, for me, I'm just going to take a shot on Lacersa, in my opinion.
If you say you'd rather have an 8,600 Elise Reed over 8,700 Lacersa, I go, bro, what are you smoking? Let me know what it is, because I need to know what that is.
Yeah, I mean that straight right hand down the middle that Elise Reed has is nice. I just think like
Yeah.
at some point you got to buy into fight camps and you got to buy into teams, and I'm buying into Team Fortis MMA right now.
Dude, and I love listening to Safe Saud's corner.
Same.
Because I'm the type of, I want that coach that's all up in your grill. And that is Safe Saud. I mean, and he don't hold anything back.
Yeah, no, we'd hit it off. We would definitely hit it off because he's going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And that's exactly what you want.
And our opening fight tonight, you got Maximum Grisham taking on Philippe Lins. Maximum Grisham minus 130 betting favorite, plus 110 for Philippe Lins. 8,800 for Grisham on DK, 7,400 for Lins, and then it's $17 and $13 respectively. Pete, I don't know how you trust either one of these guys.
I agree with you. I think we're at a point now where we're seeing Philippe Lins starting to showcase what he was supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like in the UFC, like the signing, I thought that, wow, this guy's going to be good. But after you got the bag and you come over to the UFC, sometimes, you know, just some weird shit happens. And Tanner Boser knocking him out definitely was very weird. There's a decision guy who all of a sudden found a couple fights with power. It was just weird things happening. And Philippe Lins is super volatile from a chin standpoint, has good volume, has good speed, has takedowns and jiu-jitsu in his back pocket if he needs to. We have seen him showcase that previously against Marcin Prachnio. I think that Philippe Lins, if he's smart, will blend everything. Just striking against Maxim Grishin, who hits really hard despite being a low-volume fighter, I just don't think it's a smart thing to do. Blending everything, putting volume on him, looking to tie up with Maxim Grishin, who, in my opinion, has a weaker gas tank than Philippe Lins. I still don't think either one of them have a significant, how can I say this? I don't think that either one of them are super active, but I feel like Philippe Lins is going to be a little bit better in the cardio department than Maxim Grishin. I mean, we did see Philippe Lins put a 4 out of 11 takedown work rate against Marcin Prachnio. Prachnio, not nearly as physical as Maxim Grishin, but I just like having that little curveball in your back pocket. And Maxim Grishin, outside of landing a right hand, he's been fighting a lot of injuries and pullouts and all of that stuff. And, you know, I saw some training footage of him, and it was kind of weird because, like, he's getting out grappled in his training footage, and then, like, he's sparring with MMA gloves on, and then he's getting hit into the body, and he's grunting and all that stuff. And it's like, I could see a liver shot to Philippe Lins leading to the end. So give me Philippe Lins to win a decision here, 7,400. I think it's a close fight, but outside of a big right hand for Maxim Grishin, I think the better minute winner is clearly Philippe Lins.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just a fight that I just do not want to get to. Now let's get to our straight-up fight picks here. These are non-betting/DFS related. Main event, I'll go with Car France.
Yeah, Car France for me.
Then co-main event, going with my guy, Daniel Pineda.
Oh, shoot. I'm going Caceres.
Jim Miller.
I'm just going to be reckless with that one because it just seems like what should happen isn't going to happen. I'm just going to say this guy, Jesse Butler, picks up a win he shouldn't.
Don't feel great about picking Tim Elliott, but I'm going to pick Tim Elliott.
Yeah, Altamirano for me.
I'll go Karine Silva.
Karine Silva.
Give me Nurmagomedov.
Yeah, give me Nurmagomedov.
Another homer pick here, just because guy's been a friend of the show. Johnny Munoz.
Oh, God. Daniel Santos for me.
God. Arlovski, don't feel good about it.
Arlovski.
I'm going to go for my guy, John Castaneda.
Gafurov.
Mullarkey. Frey. Lacersa. I'm going to go Lins. Grisham's been on the sidelines for a little too long for my liking.
Yeah, I'm going Lins as well.
Let me just hop in some Discord questions and we'll get out of here for this episode. Tristan says, rank the 9K options and who do you think has the most takedown upside? And I mean, look, takedown upside, if he fights a smart game plan, I think it's got to be Tim Elliott, who's got the most upside as a 9K option. I mean, your only 9K options this week are Tim Elliott, Karine, Silva, Daniel Santos.
Yeah, I mean, like Karine Silva, the likelihood of her getting a takedown is high, but I think she may just need one. You know what I'm saying? Her submission skills are super like up there, whereas Tim Elliott is probably going to get more takedowns. So takedown upside, Tim Elliott.
Sam, he's got his usual questions. By the way, his over-under is 4.5.
Over. What are you doing?
I would smash the over on there. Top 2 cash. Look, we all know the easy answer on that one. Jim Miller and Jay Mullarkey, but that's going to be – look, in a cash game contest, I think it's hard to avoid that combination.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, top 2 GPPs.
At least Mullarkey.
Yeah, the top 2 GPPs, I think, I would not put those 2 guys in my top 2 options for GPP just because looking at some other options there, I look – Lacersa is one of those options I look at, the takedown upside. And I think I look at one of the 2 guys in the co-main event.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think that there's some sneaky fights to target.
Yeah, I mean, he has about highest leverage plays by salary versus ownership. We're going to see where ownership kind of goes with all these changes because, I mean, look, we're going to see some high ones. But, like, if I'm looking at, some of the ownership I'm looking at before kind of all these changes kind of take place, Nurmagomedov's an interesting one if he's able to rack up some points with some takedowns.
Yeah, he's a tricky one. That fight's just a head scratcher for me. You know what I mean? Like I'm feeling some Jinh Frey love this week. I just am. And I can't believe I'm saying that. But it's women's MMA against a favorite that I have zero faith in.
I mean, look, I would consider Jinh Frey a dart throw because of ownership because she's just not getting any. But, like, I think if you're looking for a dart play, I think you're looking at either Butler or Naimov as a dart.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. As a dart, it's got to be Jesse Butler for me. I mean, I'm kind of right now watching some videos on Jesse Butler to begin with. And at some point, youth does start to, creep in and have an edge against a veteran. You know what I mean? At some point. Is Jim Miller at that point? I'm going to do it, man. And if I lose my money this week, I don't care because I'm already expecting a loss this week of just how horrible it is. And if you go the typical chalky route, you're probably losing money anyways. If you put 150 lineups out there, so $150, you're going to be holding hands with a lot of people. You could actually not profit. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to just get super different. And Jesse Butler is going to be that dart throw I'm going to get aggressive on.
Yeah, it just salary-wise allows you to do so much. Last question we'll leave with is the value plays underneath 8K over on DraftKings. Just kind of going down the list, Pineda's got the definitely finishing upside at 7,300. Miller, Butler, I think both are great value options underneath there. Altamirano's kind of an interesting one at 7,200, especially if he, maybe able to survive an early storm of Tim Elliott looking for a knockout and maybe a third round type finish for Altamirano really leads to a good score for him. Other ones, Gafurov, you made some great points of him at 7,800. Jinh Frey 7,600. I just don't love the fancy score upside there. Those would be the ones that would stick out to me.
Let me ask you one question, final question.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of struggling with it, with how the salary standpoint is. Do you think the main event's necessary? Given the salary, given the rounds?
No, I don't.
Really?
I just think you need a lot of volume. I mean, I feel like if you told me one or the other is going to be optimal in the victory, I feel like it's probably more likely that it's Albazi because of the takedown upside.
Wow. I just think the salary makes it so damn hard. Imagine if it goes 5 rounds, you're screwed.
But the problem is this week is one of those weeks where it just doesn't – salary's just not going to be an issue for the most part. Now, I will tell you, when I start going into Cruncher and developing lineups, one thing I will do is I'm just going to uncheck Miller and Mullarkey. I just want to see what it gives me. Not saying I'm running though. It's more of a lot of times. Sometimes I do crunches. I just want to see what it spits out. Yeah. So not having either one of those guys in a lineup, or not having both those guys in a lineup, I'm interested to see what it does spit out. Because I think that's the interesting thing about tomorrow. Is the optimal 2,000 or more left on the table, or is the optimal under 1,000?
Oh, it's got to be. I'm probably going to leave more than 1,000. I just am. Like, this is a week where underdogs are alive.
I don't even think I got to tell Cruncher. I mean, I might just tell Cruncher at the most spin 49.2.
Oh, at the most 49.2. Yeah.
I'd probably go spin anywhere from
47.
Yeah, 47 was kind of the number that was in my head to 49.2, because I don't see you spending all $50,000 that's going to lead to you creating an optimal. Look, maybe I'm wrong. I just feel like that's just not going to lead to building an optimal lineup.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Going to be a weird slate. I'm probably going to just try to be as super aggressive in a 20 max, because I just don't want to put 150 lineups out there. We'll see. I probably,
it's a tough 150 lineup week.
I end up doing it, so we'll see.
Yeah, but of course, as always, appreciate everyone tuning in. Of course, we'll be in Discord tomorrow. I will put my Prize Picks cards in there so you guys see what I'm playing over there on Prize Picks. Of course, you ever got a question from me and Pete, hop in that Discord. Totally free to join. We'll have a DraftKings contest up here. I'll get that up here the next hour or so. I will put that link right here on the YouTube video, also on the podcast channels as well. So we appreciate everyone tuning in for this episode of Fight HQ. We'll be back next week to preview whatever fight night. Oh, no, it's pay-per-view next week.
Dude, I'm with you, man. But hey, thank you guys.
I'm just saying, next week, Dan Ige, Nate Landwehr. Violence written all over that sucker.
Oh, I love that fight. Yeah. And guys, thank you so much for checking us out. Horrible card, horrible circumstances, but we're trying to make you some money despite having headaches. I will tell you that we appreciate you. Join the Discord, please. It's in our bio. Hit that like button for us. Get us over 100 likes for this video. Get us over 1,000 subscribers. We really need that help from you guys, and appreciate you each and every week. And good luck to you.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Fight HQ. We will talk to you next week as we'll get you ready for the UFC pay-per-view headlined, or I should say scheduled to be headlined by Nunez and Irene Aldana.